Hi, how you doing? Today we are gonna do my May wrap up because somehow this month has already completely passed. We're done with it. How did that happen? I don't know. But let's talk books. I read a shitload this month, so bear with me. For the reading stats, I read 20 books, which amounted to 7,008 pages read, which is an average of 350.4 pages per book and an average of 226.06 pages per day. That's a lot. I don't know how I did it, don't ask. Then for the format, I read 3 books. I owned 1 ebook, 10 galleys from NetGalley, and 6 library books. I had 1 1-star, 8 2 stars, 5 3 stars, 5 4 stars, 1 5-star, and an average rating of 2.85. So, you know, I might have read a lot, but they were not good books, happily enough. I hated year 2. Then for the age range, we have 5 young adult books, 2 new adult books, and 13 adult books. And for genre, we have 4 fantasies, 4 mangas, 9 contemporaries, and 3 mystery thrillers. I do have to say that for my library books this month, they have already been returned, so there's more pictures popping up than usual. I apologize. The first book that I read this month is Mountains Made of Glass by Scarlett St, Clair, which I gave 2 to 5 stars to as a guy I got from NetGalley. This is a fantasy romance kind of novella, I think. I don't know if it's officially a novella, but it's really short. And this is the last book that I read in my Reading for 24 Hours vlog. So go check that out if you want to see like in-depth thoughts. I do have to say, I barely remember anything about this book now at the end of the month. It just was very forgettable for me. I did enjoy elements of it. I just think the weakness of this book is its length, and that kept it from really going in depth on everything. So just everything just felt very surface level, and I was never really fully invested in anything. Then next I read Monster Volume 4, Ayse's Friend by Naoki Urasawa, which I gave 4 to 5 stars to. I finally read this book. I started this series from the library like last summer, but the issues that I've this month, basically a couple of them, have been like missing in my library, and that's how I've been reading these books through. I don't know what happened, but they were missing and they're back now. I quite like this one. I think a lot happened in this one. It's not my favorite, like I wasn't in love with this volume, but a lot happened in it, and it made me very excited to be able to continue on with the series. The next I read Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams, which I gave 4 to 5 stars to, and this is again I got from NetGalley. This is the first book that I read in my reading galleys until I get a 5-star vlog, so go check that out because I read a lot of books for that vlog, and this is just the first one of them. But I really enjoyed this one. This is a fake dating small town romance. It's also like practice dates, and I really liked it. It hits a lot of tropes that I liked, so I was expecting to love it, and I did enjoy it very much. It wasn't perfect for me because I do feel like when it comes to the relationship, I feel like it was very intense very quickly. I would have liked a bit more of a slower build on that, but overall I did have a great time reading this book. Then next I read Twisted Lies by Ana Huang, which I gave 5 stars to. This is the last book in the Twisted series, which I have also done a series discussion on, so go check that out. I was really excited to read this book because this couple has been teased quite a bit, mainly Twisted Hate, but also King of Wrath. And it did not disappoint. I did really like it. For most of the book, I actually loved it. I was just flying through it. I really loved the characters, and I loved the romance, how it was set up and developed. This is also fake dating, which is a trend you're gonna see a lot. But I really loved how a lot was done. It just that the third act conflict I thought was extremely stupid, and it was also resolved extremely quickly, which just proved to me how stupid the conflict was. And next, I read The Plus One by Mazey Eddings, which I gave 5 stars to. It's on a galley I got from NetGalley, and you guessed it, it's not a fake dating romance. I don't know what I keep doing. Like honestly, May was fake dating central, and it wasn't the plan, but it happened. But yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of this book. I just didn't really buy the romance because basically it's a childhood enemies to lovers now fake dating book, and I just never was sold on the enemies part. Like, I don't know, they kept telling me that they hated each other, but they kept showing me that they actually got along fine. So that just bothered me a little. I don't know, I just didn't really connect that much with the actual romance. But overall, it was an enjoyable enough read. I didn't have a terrible time reading it. I just didn't really connect with the romance. And next, I read The Girl Next Door by Cecilia Vinesse, which I gave 3 out of 5 stars to another gal I got from NetGalley, and it's another fake dating. Not a romance because it's a YA and it's more so coming of age, but there is a fake dating element to this when it comes to the romantic side of this book. But honestly, I liked it fine enough. It's a 3-star because I just, even though I can't tell you anything that's terribly wrong with it, I feel like it was very like generic. There wasn't anything too special about this book, but it is a very enjoyable read and I definitely do recommend it. Then next, I read Monster Volume 5 After the Carnival by Naoki Urasawa, which I gave 2 out of 5 stars to. I just thought that this volume was filler. Not a whole lot happened in it. Then next, I read American Queen by Sierra Simone, which I gave 2 out of 5 stars to. I got from NetGalley. This one again is a book that I've heard great things about and an author I've heard great things about. I enjoyed it. Like, honestly, this book is kind of unhinged and a lot, but that made it fun to read because everything is just so dramatic and it's a blast, to be honest. But also at the same time, I think this book is also very extremely incel-y, and it focuses more so on showing sexual attraction between the characters instead of developing like a deeper connection between them and like showing me romantic feelings maybe. Then next, I read This Is the Way the World Ends by Jen Wilde, which I gave 5 stars to, and as a gal I got from NetGalley. This one I really liked so much. I do think this has a really slow start, and that's also a common criticism I've seen of it in reviews, is that it takes about like half of the book before the actual plot kicks in. But I do think that it helps. Like, it's necessary in my opinion. I think it pays off. I think it works really well. It gets you situated between like these character dynamics really well before we get into like the more apocalypse stuff. Once we get into more of that apocalypse stuff, this book gets wild. It's such a wild ride, so much fun, so entertaining, and I had so much fun like theorizing about things that were going on, who was involved, who knew what, stuff like that. I really liked. I love the friend group that becomes together in this book, and I just the ending is so abrupt and it makes this whole book fall so flat. Then next, I read Chain of Thorns by Cassandra Clare, which I give 5 stars to. I did a spoiler-filled vlog for this, but this is also the final book in the last hour series, so I also have a series discussion up for that, so you can check both of those out if you want. But this was just a massive disappointment to me. I thought this book was generally terrible. The characters acted so out of character and was so selfish, and I wasn't vibing with them, especially because they also just made stupid decisions. I thought the plot was very boring and predictable, and just the amount of plot holes in this book is wild. Like, I generally by the end of this had the feeling that this was written by someone who was just given a quick summary of the first 2 books, because that's just how this read through me. And yeah, the only reason this isn't a 1 star is because of a lot of like the small moments. Because I have such an attachment to the characters and to this world, these smaller moments really just make me giddy and giggle, and therefore I can't give this a 1 star, because a 1 star is truly a book I can't tell you anything positive about. Then next, I read Always the Almost by Edward Underhill, which I gave 2 to 5 stars to, as I got from NetGalley. With this one, it's just that I didn't like the main character. I thought he was very selfish, and I didn't vibe with him, and therefore a book that's mainly about his personal struggles didn't work for me. I also didn't really like the romance at the center of this. I was never really shown why these two liked each other, and then the friends of our main character were very toxic, and those weren't good friendships, and I feel like it never got talked about in the book at all. So yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but I know it's a very well-loved book, which is why I was excited to read it, but it just did not work for me. Next, I read Monster Volume 6, The Secret Woods by Naoki Urasawa, which I gave 5 stars to. Again, I felt like this one was a bit more fillery. Didn't get 10- at all, I believe, or maybe like from a small scene, and I like him being more present in it. I don't like when it focuses on the characters. And next, I read Once More with Feeling by Elissa Sussman, which I gave 5 stars to, again from NetGalley. This is also the end of that 5-star vlog, and as you can tell by being 5 stars and my only 5-star of the month, I loved this book. I thought it was so good. I thought it was an amazing romance. It's second chance, dual timeline, and I think that was all executed very well. In the past, our main character is like a pop star, and now in the present she's had like a derailed career. Allow is getting back on Broadway, and I thought both of those worlds were so interesting, and I liked what the author did with that in this book. I loved the romance. I thought they were so cute together. I had such great moments together. I actually cried towards the ending because that's how invested I was. I didn't cry because sad things were happening. I cried because I was just so invested. I was like, oh my god. Then next I read Unfortunately Yours by Tessa Bailey, which I gave 5 stars. Something like that I got from NetGalley. This is the second and final book in the A Fine Mess duology. I read Secretly Yours last year and really loved that, and I read that early as well. So I was so excited for this book, and it just ended up a bit of a disappointment to me, mainly because even though I liked our two main characters and their separate journeys, and I liked the setting of this book and like everything about it, I just again didn't really buy the romance. At first it was cute and everything, but then like towards the ending they kept just repeating the same issues constantly over and over again, and like if you still haven't learned by now, like I don't see you ever making this work. Then next I read The Witch Kingdom by Danielle L. Jensen, which I gave 2 to 5 stars to. This is just a popular fantasy romance book that I've heard a lot of great things about. I feel conflicted talking about this book because I feel like for the most part I wasn't liking it that much. I wasn't disliking it. I was having a enjoyable enough time, but I wasn't that invested in it. I didn't really care about either of the characters. I still feel like I don't really know them. I wasn't invested in the romance. I feel like that just wasn't developed properly. But then in the second half we get kind of more into like the fantasy plot, and then I realized, oh shit, no, I am invested, just not in these characters. I got really invested in the world, in the plot, and the political intrigue side of things. And next I read Monster Volume 7, Witchheart by Naoki Urasawa, which I give 3 to 5 stars to. I feel like the first half of this was a bit filler, and then in the second half we start putting things together and we're figuring shit out, and we're learning more about Johan and Tenma's back in the game, and I was having a really fun time with that second half. And next I read Rhapsodic by Laura Thalassa, which I give 2 to 5 stars to. This is again a lot of fantasy romance that I've heard great things about, a fantasy romance author I've heard great things about, and this romance just gave me the ick. I can't explain it properly without spoiling anything, but just so many aspects of it gave me the ick. I'm like, no, why are we doing this? I don't like it. So that's eventually why it got a lower rating, because that romance just is something I wasn't vibing with. Again, this is one in which I like the fantasy storyline, so I will be continuing with the series. And then next I read The Agathas by Kathleen Glasgow and Liz Lawson, which I gave 1 out of 5 stars. Don't kill me. I've been so excited for this book ever since I first learned about it. I thought it sounded so interesting and so much fun, and then over the past year or so that's been out, I've heard so many great reviews on it, so I finally got my ass to it. I hated every second of it. I thought the two main characters were just terrible people, and I did not like following them. They never faced any consequences to their actions, and they did some illegal stuff and dangerous stuff. They're also just so incredibly stupid. I can't believe it. And throughout most of the book, the mystery I thought was engaging, and I was having fun with that at least. But then we get the answer to the mystery. I'm like, this is actually so incredibly stupid. I really hated this book. And next I read Hope Before Dark by Riley Sagar, which I gave 4 to 5 stars to. My history with Riley Sagar is the first book I've read by him was Survive the Night. Didn't like that, but that's a common opinion. And then I read Lock Every Door, and I really like that. So I've been kind of like on the fence if he's the author for me or not. But I decided to read Home Before Dark because that's probably the release by him I've heard the best things about. I really enjoyed this one. It's not a perfect book, it's not a 5-star, but I did generally have a lot of fun with this. This is a very slow building book, and throughout the entire book you're kind of questioning if what's happening is paranormal or not, if things are lies or reality, like what's going on. And I thought that was really well done. I also liked that this was kind of dual perspective between our main character and her dad's book. I liked that we got passages from that, and I liked seeing the different parallels between the two storylines. That it was well crafted, and I loved the ending. Like towards the end I was so sucked in, and I was gasping out loud, like generally so loud, because I just was so shocked by the reveals that were happening. And then lastly for this month we have The Kingmaker by Kennedy Ryan, which I gave 2 to 5 stars since I got from NetGalley. I have heard great things about this series. And I read a Kennedy Ryan last year and I really enjoyed that, so I was excited to read more by this author, and this just did not work for me at all. Like, I genuinely, reading reviews, I genuinely think I read another book than other people, because how I really despised our male main character. I thought he was an asshole. He was very selfish and entitled. I really liked the female main character. I liked the political discussions around in this book as well, because it's set in like a political world, and I liked the themes and things brought up in this book. I thought that was really well done, and like I said, I really love the main character, and I love the passion she has for the causes she's fighting for. I thought that was all really well done. I despised the male main character, and therefore also couldn't root for the romance, because I wouldn't want this awesome woman to get together with a shitbag guy, you know? That was everything that I read in the month of May. It was a lot. I didn't like a lot, but I still feel like I had a great reading month. So yeah, for June, I also have some exciting things planned, so I'll hope you stick around. Let me know in the comments what you thought of these books, if you've read them, as well as some of the books you read in May. And I'll see you next time, hopefully.
Here I am again, the same old situation. What does the God thing